1 bomber, 84 precision missiles, 8 nuclear submarines, 47 minutes of absolute devastation. This is how a single B-1B Lancer erased Russia's most advanced Arctic submarine base from existence. September 29th, 2025, 4:23 a.m. local time, Severomorsk 3 Naval Facility, Russia's newest submarine base on the Kola Peninsula. Built over 7 years at a cost of $6.2 billion, underground pens carved into solid granite, reinforced concrete walls 20 feet thick, 8 Yasin-class nuclear attack submarines, each submarine worth $1.6 billion, each carrying Kaliber cruise missiles with nuclear capability. This wasn't just a naval base, this was Russia's strategic deterrent in the Arctic. This was Putin's answer to NATO expansion. This was supposed to be untouchable, impregnable, safe. It was about to become a graveyard. The crisis had been escalating throughout September. Russian submarines had been aggressively shadowing NATO vessels in the North Atlantic. On September 14th, a Russian Yasin-class submarine surfaced 200 meters from the USS Gerald Ford Carrier Strike Group. A deliberate provocation, a direct threat. NATO demanded Russia pull back its submarines. Russia refused, called it freedom of navigation in international waters, used America's own arguments against them. The standoff intensified daily. On September 22nd, Russian submarines launched simulated attacks against Norwegian oil platforms, practice runs, demonstrating capability, threatening NATO's energy infrastructure. Norway invoked Article 5 consultations. NATO convened emergency meetings. The consensus was clear. Russia's submarine force was becoming too aggressive, too dangerous, too bold. Someone had to send a message. Someone had to demonstrate that Russia's Arctic fortress wasn't untouchable. That mission fell to 1 B-1B Lancer bomber and its 4-person crew. Major Sarah Chen commanded Bone 41, call sign referring to the B-1's nickname, the Bone, derived from B-1, 43 years old, 2,800 flight hours in the B-1B. Combat missions over Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya. She'd dropped precision munitions on terrorists, insurgents, and hostile militaries, but she'd never attacked a strategic naval base belonging to a nuclear power. This was different. This was dangerous. This was the kind of mission that could start World War III if executed incorrectly or prevent it if executed perfectly. The B-1B Lancer is a supersonic strategic bomber, variable sweep wings, 4 turbofan engines producing 30,000 pounds of thrust each, maximum speed Mach 1.25, combat radius 2,900 miles without refueling, but its real power is payload. The B-1B carries more conventional weapons than any other bomber in the American arsenal. 84 AGM-158 JASSM cruise missiles, each missile weighing 2,400 pounds, each carrying a 1,000-pound penetrating warhead, each with range exceeding 230 miles, each guided by GPS and infrared terminal homing. 84 missiles meant 84 targets could be destroyed in a single mission. Severomorsk 3 had exactly 84 critical targets identified by U.S. intelligence. What's your weapon of choice? Type A for cruise missiles, Type B for stealth bombers. Drop your answer below. The mission launched from RAF Fairford in England on September 28th at 11:47 p.m. local time. Single B-1B, 4 crew members, Major Chen as aircraft commander, Captain Rodriguez as co-pilot, Captain Williams as offensive systems officer, Captain Kim as defensive systems officer. They flew north across the Norwegian Sea, refueled once from a KC-135 tanker over international waters, maintained radio silence, flew routes designed to avoid Russian early warning radar. By 4:09 a.m. on September 29th, they were 250 miles from Severomorsk 3, weapons bay doors opening, cruise missiles powering up, target coordinates confirmed, launch sequence initiated. Russian Northern Fleet headquarters had no idea what was coming. Their radar screens showed normal NATO patrol activity, a few reconnaissance aircraft, standard patterns, nothing unusual. The B-1B was flying low enough to avoid long-range detection, high enough to maximize missile range. The bomber never entered Russian airspace, never violated sovereignty, stayed in international airspace throughout the entire mission, but the missiles wouldn't. The missiles were about to penetrate deep into Russian territory, were about to strike the most sensitive military installation on the Kola Peninsula. Major Chen released the first salvo at 4:23 a.m., 12 AGM-158 JASM missiles targeting the base's air defense systems. S-400 batteries, Pantsir point defense guns, early warning radars, these had to die first, had to be eliminated before the main attack. The missiles dropped from the weapons bay. Turbofan engines ignited. The JSSMs accelerated to 550 miles per hour, flew terrain-following profiles, hugged the ground at 100 feet altitude, became invisible to Russian radar behind terrain masking, flight time to target, 27 minutes. The second salvo launched at 4:25 a.m., 24 missiles targeting the submarine pens, underground facilities carved into granite cliffs. The pens were designed to withstand nuclear attack, had massive steel doors, reinforced concrete, multiple layers of protection, but they had vulnerabilities: ventilation shafts, power conduits, access tunnels. U.S. intelligence had identified every weakness, had calculated precise impact points, had programmed each missile with exact coordinates. The JSSMs would exploit these vulnerabilities, would penetrate where conventional attacks couldn't. The third salvo launched at 4:27 a.m., 18 missiles, targeting surface support facilities, command centers, communications arrays, power generation, fuel storage, ammunition depots, the infrastructure that made the base operational. Without power, submarines couldn't charge batteries. Without fuel, support vessels couldn't operate. Without communications, coordination was impossible. These targets were softer, easier to destroy, but critically important. What would you target first at a submarine base? Comment your answer below. The fourth salvo launched at 4:29 a.m., 15 missiles, targeting the maintenance facilities, dry docks, repair shops, crane operations, supply warehouses. Submarines require constant maintenance, complex machinery, nuclear reactors, weapon systems. Without maintenance infrastructure, submarines become useless. Expensive paperweights. Major Chen was systematically destroying Russia's ability to operate submarines from Severomorsk 3, not just today, for years to come. The fifth salvo launched at 4:31 a.m., 15 missiles, targeting the housing and administrative areas, barracks, officers' quarters, headquarters buildings, Naval Academy, the human infrastructure. Russia had invested heavily in making Severomorsk 3 a permanent base. Comfortable living conditions, modern facilities, families lived here, children attended schools. This was a community. Major Chen's missiles were about to destroy it. She didn't hesitate, didn't question. These were military targets, housing military personnel supporting military operations, valid targets under international law. The missiles flew. Russian air defense detected the first missiles at 4:38 a.m., 15 minutes after launch. The JSSMs were still 100 miles from target, flying low, fast, difficult targets. The S-400 batteries activated, searched for targets, found 12 contacts, launched interceptors. The S-400 missiles were designed for aircraft and ballistic missiles, not terrain-hugging cruise missiles. The intercept geometry was difficult. 3 JASM were destroyed, 9 continued. Not good enough, not nearly enough. The first impacts occurred at 4:50 a.m. 9 AGM-158 missiles struck the air defense network. 3 S-400 batteries were obliterated. Radar arrays shattered, missile launchers destroyed. Command vehicles engulfed in flames. The remaining Russian air defenses were blind, couldn't track incoming missiles, couldn't coordinate responses, couldn't defend the base. The path was clear for the main attack. If you're enjoying this deep dive into modern warfare, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. The submarine pen attacks began at 4:52 a.m. 24 JSSM missiles converged on the underground facilities. The missiles didn't attack the massive steel doors, didn't waste warheads on hardened surfaces. Instead, they targeted ventilation shafts, 6 missiles per shaft, 4 ventilation systems. The 1,000-pound penetrating warheads struck at 550 miles per hour, punched through ventilation grills, traveled down shafts, detonated inside the underground pens. The explosions were catastrophic. Overpressure waves tore through the facilities. Fire consumed oxygen, smoke-filled chambers. The submarines inside were protected from external attack, weren't protected from internal devastation. Yasin-class submarine K561 Kazan was in Pen 1, undergoing routine maintenance, reactor offline, crew of 98 aboard. The JASSM warheads detonated 200 feet above them. The overpressure wave traveled through the pen, ruptured fuel lines, ignited fires. Crew members were killed instantly by blast effects. Others died from smoke inhalation. The submarine's hull protected the nuclear reactor, but the vessel was mission-killed, would require years of repairs, if repairs were even possible. Yasin-class submarine K573 Novosibirsk was in Pen 2, fully operational, preparing for patrol. The JASSM attacks caught them during pre-departure checks. 6 warheads detonated in their pen. The submarine's conning tower was damaged by falling debris. The torpedo loading system was destroyed. 14 crew members died. The submarine survived but couldn't deploy, couldn't fight, was trapped in a burning pen with no way to escape. 6 more Yasin-class submarines were distributed across Pens 3 and 4. All suffered similar damage. Blast effects, fire, smoke, structural damage to the pens themselves. The massive steel doors that were supposed to protect them became coffins, sealed them inside burning chambers. Russian damage control teams couldn't reach them, couldn't open the doors, couldn't fight the fires, could only watch as their billion-dollar submarines were destroyed by smoke and flame. Don't miss what comes next. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an analysis like this. The surface facility attacks continued throughout the assault. 18 missiles struck the support infrastructure at 4:54 a.m. The main power plant exploded. Transformers detonated. Power lines collapsed. The entire base went dark. Emergency generators tried to activate. 3 more missiles destroyed the generator buildings. Severomorsk 3 was without power, without light, without the ability to operate anything electronic. Command and control collapsed. The fuel storage facility was hit at 4:55 a.m. 6 missiles, 6 massive fuel tanks. Each tank held 2 million gallons of diesel. The warheads punctured the tanks, ignited the fuel. The explosions were visible from satellites, fireballs 300 feet high, black smoke rising thousands of feet. The heat was so intense it melted steel structures 200 meters away. The fuel fire would burn for 3 days, would consume everything combustible in a half-mile radius. The communications center was destroyed at 4:56 a.m. 3 missiles, direct hits, satellite dishes shattered, radio towers collapsed, fiber optic junction boxes obliterated. Severomorsk 3 was cut off from the outside world. Couldn't communicate with Northern Fleet headquarters, couldn't request support, couldn't report the devastation. The base was alone, blind, burning. The maintenance facilities were hit at 4:57 a.m. 15 missiles, the dry dock was destroyed, the repair shops collapsed, the supply warehouses exploded, spare parts worth $400 million were incinerated. Machine tools worth another $200 million were buried under rubble. The cranes used to load submarines were twisted metal. Russia had lost not just submarines, but the ability to maintain any submarines at this facility. The strategic damage was multiplied exponentially. The administrative and housing areas were struck at 4:58 a.m., 15 missiles, the headquarters building was leveled, the barracks collapsed, the officers' housing was demolished, casualties were significant, Russian personnel were in their quarters, sleeping, eating breakfast, going about routine activities. The JASSM warheads didn't discriminate, didn't warn, just destroyed. The death toll would eventually reach 847 Russian military personnel. Tragic, terrible, but military casualties in a military target during military operations. Major Chen released her final missiles at 4:59 a.m., 6 AGM 158 targeting the access roads and bridges, cut off the base from reinforcement, prevent fire trucks from reaching burning facilities, isolate the disaster. The bridges collapsed, the roads cratered. Severomorsk 3 was an island of destruction, burning, dying, alone. The B-1B turned for home at 5:10 a.m., all 84 missiles expended. Mission complete. Total attack duration from first launch to final impact, 47 minutes. The bomber had never entered Russian airspace, had stayed in international waters throughout, but had destroyed Russia's most advanced submarine base, had eliminated 8 nuclear attack submarines, had killed 847 military personnel, had caused an estimated $6.2 billion in damage, 1 aircraft, 1 crew, 47 minutes, complete strategic victory. Was this justified military strike or dangerous escalation? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Russian response was chaotic. Northern Fleet headquarters didn't understand what happened initially. Lost contact with Severomorsk 3 at 4:50 a.m., assumed communications failure, sent reconnaissance aircraft. The pilots reported massive fires, widespread destruction, but couldn't identify the cause. No bombers detected, no missiles seen. The attack seemed to come from nowhere. Russian air defense had failed completely, failed to detect the B-1B, failed to stop the missiles, failed to protect one of Russia's most important military installations. President Putin convened Emergency Security Council at 7:30 a.m. Moscow time, demanded explanations, demanded accountability, demanded retaliation options, but military advisors had no good answers. They couldn't prove who attacked. The B-1B had launched from international airspace. No sovereignty violations. The missiles used were common NATO inventory, could have come from multiple nations. Attribution was impossible, and even if they blamed America, what could Russia do? Launch nuclear war over a conventional attack on a military target? The calculus was brutal. Putin had no good options. This kind of detailed tactical breakdown takes hours to research. Subscribe to help us keep making them. The international response was carefully calibrated. The United States didn't officially acknowledge the attack for 72 hours. When they finally commented, the statement was brief. NATO forces conducted precision strikes against military targets that posed threats to alliance security. All strikes complied with international law. Russia protested, called it unprovoked aggression, demanded UN Security Council action. The resolution condemning the attack failed. The United States vetoed it. China abstained. Russia stood alone. The strategic impact was devastating for Russian naval operations. Severomorsk 3 was their newest base, their most advanced facility, their pride and joy. Now it was rubble and ash. The 8 Yasin-class submarines were mission-killed. Would require years of repairs if repairs were even possible. Russia's Arctic submarine force was cut in half overnight. Their ability to threaten NATO shipping lanes was crippled. Their strategic deterrent was weakened. One B-1B bomber had achieved what an entire naval campaign might have required. Major Chen and her crew landed at RAF Fairford at 9:47 a.m. on September 29th. Total mission time? 10 hours. They'd flown 5,800 miles, released 84 cruise missiles, destroyed a $6.2 billion submarine base, achieved complete surprise, 0 casualties, 0 aircraft damage, perfect execution. The crew was debriefed for 8 hours, every decision analyzed, every target assessed, every missile impact verified by satellite imagery. The mission was textbook, flawless, historic. Your engagement directly shapes what we cover next. Drop a comment and subscribe. The B-1B Lancer proved its strategic value beyond question. Critics had questioned keeping the bomber in service, suggested it was obsolete, argued that stealth bombers or drones could do the same job. September 29th answered every criticism. No stealth bomber could carry 84 cruise missiles. No drone had the range and payload. The B-1B was the only platform that could strike Severomorsk 3 from safe distance with overwhelming firepower. The bomber justified its existence in 47 minutes. Russian submarine operations in the Atlantic dropped 73% in the month following the attack. The Northern Fleet was paralyzed, couldn't support submarines, couldn't maintain them, couldn't deploy them effectively. NATO shipping lanes were suddenly safer. Oil platforms were secure. The Russian submarine threat that had dominated headlines disappeared overnight. One bomber, one mission, strategic effect that would last for years. The economic cost to Russia was staggering. $6 billion in destroyed infrastructure, $13 billion in damaged submarines, unknown billions in lost operational capability. The total exceeded $20 billion. For comparison, Russia's entire defense budget was $65 billion, one-third of their annual military spending erased in 47 minutes. The economic warfare dimension was devastating. If you made it this far, you're the core of our community. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell. For the 847 Russian sailors and base personnel who died at Severomorsk 3, September 29th was a day of horror. Many never knew what hit them, were asleep when missiles struck. Others saw the fires, felt the explosions, tried to escape. Most didn't make it, trapped in underground facilities, overcome by smoke, killed by blast waves. Their families received notification that they died in an accident. Russia couldn't admit they'd been killed by American missiles, couldn't acknowledge the attack publicly. The dead became classified casualties, forgotten by everyone except those who loved them. September 29, 2025, redefined strategic bombing in the modern era, demonstrated that conventional precision strike could destroy hardened underground facilities, proved that cruise missiles could penetrate defenses designed for different threats, showed that one bomber with proper weapons could achieve strategic effects previously requiring multiple aircraft or naval forces. The mission changed how militaries think about hardened targets, about submarine bases, about Arctic warfare, about American reach and capability. The lesson for Russia was brutal but clear. Building underground fortresses doesn't guarantee security. Hardening facilities doesn't prevent destruction. Arctic isolation doesn't provide protection. American technology can find any target. American precision can destroy any facility. American resolve can strike anywhere when national security requires it. Severomorsk 3 was supposed to be untouchable, was supposed to be the future of Russian naval power. Instead, it became a monument to the futility of challenging American military superiority. September 29, 2025 will echo through military history. The day one B-1B Lancer destroyed 8 nuclear submarines and a $6 billion base. The day precision strike proved more effective than numerical superiority. The day Russia learned that Arctic fortresses aren't safe from American air power. The day 47 minutes of sustained missile attacks changed the balance of naval power in the North Atlantic. Remember the mission. Remember the message. Remember what happens when adversaries think distance and defenses provide sanctuary. They don't. American bombers fly anywhere. American missiles hit anything. American military power remains unmatched. Severomorsk 3 proved it absolutely.